You see them everywhere now, right? On rooftops, out in huge fields, these silent, still panels just sitting in the sun. But have you ever really stopped to wonder how they do it? How does a simple, flat piece of glass and metal turn sunlight into the electricity that powers our lives? Well, today we're going to break it down and look at the incredible science that makes it all possible, one photon at a time. So let's boil it all down to one simple question. How do you take something as basic as a sunbeam and turn it into real, usable power? The kind of power that can charge your phone or run your air conditioner. The answer, believe it or not, isn't some kind of magic. It's just some of the most elegant and honestly coolest physics you can imagine.
To really get how a solar panel works, we have to start at the very beginning, with the fundamental principle. We're talking about that incredible moment where light itself literally becomes electricity.
The whole secret sauce is something called the photovoltaic effect. And I know it sounds super technical, but the name actually tells you everything you need to know. Photo, that comes from the Greek word for light. And voltaic, well, that's for voltage. So it's literally light voltage. It's the engine that drives every single solar cell on the planet.
It all kicks off at the atomic level. So imagine sunlight as this constant stream of tiny little energy packets called photons. When one of these photons zips down from the sun and smacks into the solar cell, bam! It hits with enough force to knock an electron right out of its spot. And when that electron is gone, it leaves behind a little vacancy, which we call a hole.
Okay, so now you've got this free-floating electron with its negative charge, and you've got the hole it left behind, which now has a positive charge. And what do opposites do? They attract. Just like the north and south poles of a magnet, that electron desperately wants to fall right back into that hole. The entire job of a solar cell is to catch that electron and put it to work before it gets a chance to go back home.
So how do we actually control those little guys? How do we stop that electron from just snapping back into place? Well, it takes a really specific layered structure. Let's peel back the layers and look at the anatomy of a solar cell. The easiest way to think about a solar cell is like a high-tech sandwich. Seriously, the bottom slice of bread is a metal backplate. The filling, the most important part, is the silicon. That's the engine. Then, on top of that, you have an anti-reflective coating to make sure we trap as much sunlight as possible, a thin metal grid to collect the electricity, and finally, a tough sheet of glass to protect the whole thing from the weather.
Now that metal grid on top is a really clever piece of engineering. See those super thin lines? Those are called fingers, and their job is to run all over the surface and collect the electrons. Then they feed those electrons into the thicker lines, which are called bus bars. You can think of the bus bars as highways that carry all that electrical current away. It's a really delicate balance, right? You need enough metal to collect the power efficiently, but not so much that you end up blocking the sunlight you're trying to catch in the first place. Okay, so we've seen the overall structure, but now we need to look deep inside that silicon engine. Let's zoom way, way in, down to the atomic level, because this is where the real magic happens. Here's the trick. The silicon in a solar cell isn't pure. It's been intentionally messed with in a process called doping. One layer, the N-type, is doped with an element that has an extra electron, so it has a negative charge. The other layer, the P-type, is doped with an element that's missing an electron, creating one of those positive holes we talked about. And this is the crucial part. When you press these two different types of silicon together, right where they meet, they form something called a p-n junction. An electric field is created right at that border, and it acts like a perfect one-way street, or maybe a slide for electrons. They can go down the slide, but there is absolutely no way for them to get back up. Okay, so let's watch it happen. Step 1, a photon of light comes in and strikes that junction, knocking an electron loose. Step 2, that electric field, that one-way slide, instantly grabs the negative electron and shoves it over to the N-type layer. Step 3, the positive hole gets pushed the other way, into the P-type layer. This forced separation is everything. By keeping the negative charges and the positive charges apart, we create electrical potential. And that, my friends, is what we call voltage.
That's some pretty amazing science, right? But here's the catch. One of these tiny little cells doesn't actually produce a whole lot of power. So how do we scale this up to something that's actually useful?
Get this, a single solar cell, doesn't matter how big or small it is, only produces about half a volt. That's less power than a single AA battery. You can't do much of anything with that. So, to do any real work, we have to make them work together as a team.
And there are two main ways we combine them. If you want to boost the voltage, you connect the cells in series. It's just like putting batteries in a flashlight, linking them end to end. Their voltage adds up. Now, if you want to boost the current, which is the flow of electricity, you connect them in parallel. By mixing and matching these two types of connections, engineers can build a solar panel to fit pretty much any job.
This whole process creates a really clear ladder of scale. It all starts with that one individual cell. Then you wire dozens of those cells together to create a module, which is what most of us just call a solar panel. Then you wire a bunch of panels together into a string. And finally, you combine multiple strings to form a complete solar array, which can be powerful enough for a single house or even an entire solar farm.
So now we've got our big array, and it's generating a useful amount of power. But there's one last problem we need to solve. We've got to make that power compatible with our homes and all our stuff.
You see, solar panels produce direct current, or DC. Just think of it like a river, where the electrons flow smoothly in one direction. But our homes, our appliances, the entire electrical grid, they all run on alternating current, or AC. With AC, the flow of electrons goes back and forth, kind of like the tide. These two types of electricity speak different languages, so we need a translator.
And here's what that complete system looks like. You've got the panels, of course, making that DC power. Now, if you have a battery to store power, you also need a charge controller. Think of it like a bouncer for your battery, making sure it doesn't get overcharged. And then you have the inverter. That's our translator. Its only job is to convert that DC power from the panels into the AC power that runs everything in your house. And here's a really cool part. On a super sunny day, your panels might actually produce more power than you're using. If your system is connected to the grid, that extra electricity doesn't go to waste. It gets sent back out to the grid, and the power company has to buy it from you. It's called net metering, and it can literally make your electric meter spin backward. How cool is that? So there you have it. From a single photon of light traveling millions of miles to strike a tiny piece of silicone, all the way up to an entire grid powered by the sun, that's the incredible journey of solar energy. The science is just so powerful, and we're really only just beginning to tap into its potential. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. As this technology keeps getting better, cheaper, and more efficient, how is it going to reshape not just our homes, but our entire world?